That sounds great. You know, my final question then is, if someone now has maybe got some basic information from this and they want to practice speed reading more, first off, how can they tell where they're at currently, and then how can we know what good goals to set would be so we have something to shoot for there for words per minute?
For words per minute. Well, if you're a student, I mean, if you're my age, you know, and if you're in your 20s or you're in high school, you know, your average reading speed should be about 125 to 250. Which is pretty much everybody's.
Okay.
Any faster than 250, and you actually are speed reading a little bit because you're actually using some of your eyes. Now, it's not you all the time, but it's some of the time. Ways to get tested. You can, what I would say, a really easy way to do is pick up a novel and count how many words there are on a line. So like, let's say there's 10 words on a line, okay? And then how many lines there are on a page. So let's say there's 25 lines. So you do 10 times 25, you get 250 words. Mm-hmm. So then you read that page. Now, if it takes you a minute to read that page, you're obviously reading at 250 words a minute. And then just divide it by 10.
Gotcha.
That's your equation. But there's also tests online that you can do for free. I mean, you type in speed reading test, I mean, you should, or reading test, reading speed test.
Okay.
Any of those, you should be able to get a free test of people how to test your speed or whatever.
And then how fast you would be shooting for if we want to be able to have a good speed reading? When should we know when we've really made it to somewhere good?
Well, that's a good question. Average is about 250, you know, 125 to 250, that's average. That's reading with your larynx.
Okay.
Okay, that's all larynx. Okay. Once you surpass 250, you're reading with your larynx and your eyes.
Okay.
Now, the more you increase, the less you're reading with your larynx naturally. So, but around 500 to 800 words a minute. Okay. That's where you're gonna notice you're doing about half and half.
Okay.
You're reading half with your larynx and you're reading half with your eyes. Now, as soon as you make it over to 850, I mean 801 pretty much. If you're doing 801 to 1,000 and above, you're doing all eyes.
Okay.
It's just straight information coming in through here, and you'll notice a big change. You'll notice the shift, and you'll notice it because you'll look at a paragraph, you'll look at a page, and you'll just comprehend it like that, and it just comes to you, and you didn't read a word of that. You just instantly knew that paragraph, all the information in there is there. It's in your head and you know it, and you don't need to reread it all. I mean, that's, when you're up to 1,000 to 2,000 words a minute, that's how fast you're reading, you know. And, you know, I've seen my grandfather, he reads 1,000 to 2,000 words a minute. And he's a professor, and so when he's, or he used to be, he's retired, but when he was a professor, before each class, he'd have, you know, 6 or 7 textbooks to go through. And he'd decide which ones he were going to go through. And he'd just take a couple of weeks off before the class started, and he'd just read through all 6. Wow. At 2,000 words a minute, I mean, you can get through them really fast, and that's what you do. You just go through them real fast, and then go back through and highlight the stuff they like, and then out of 6 or 7 books, he'd pick the one they like.
Wow.
I mean, that's where you get to. I mean, that's really
impressive.
But, you know, does my grandpa read at 2,000 words a minute all the time? No. You know, I mean, if he reads a book of poetry, he's not going to read it at 2,000 words a minute. He's going to read it slow.
He knows how to use it as well.
Right. And that's the purpose of all these exercises, and, you know, the purpose of our dialogue here is to show people you don't need, you know, to drive 150 miles an hour all the time. You don't need to speed read. You don't need to read The Catcher in the Rye 10 in 10 minutes, you know. And, you know, but having that ability there and having that tool at your disposal is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
You know, very much. So that's probably.
Well, good. I mean, thank you very much for talking to us about all this here. I want to give you a chance to those. Any closing thoughts maybe we haven't touched on here that would be helpful for anyone watching right now?
What I would say is what we're providing here and what I'm saying is not in any one program. My research is from all kinds of different programs, and there's tons of different methods out there, and some work better for others and some don't. Now mine, the way I've developed it, works for me, and has worked for the students that I've tutored and for the students that I've worked with in speed reading. But by all means, if this isn't working for you, try something else. That's probably what would be my encouragement. to just try stuff out there. And every book you pick up on speed reading is going to offer you this much information that helps, you know. And it's one of those things that I don't think there's really a definitive guide to speed reading out there. You know, whether you read books on speed reading, or you know, the books on tape that are advertised at midnight or whatever. You know, none of them provide a definite answer for them because everyone reads differently. But I think there's general lessons and general practices and exercises that people can use to read a little bit faster. But if you want to get upwards in the area, you know, I think the Guinness Book of World Records is like 10,000, 25,000 words a minute. I mean, that guy's insane. And I mean, he literally, and, you know, and you think about it, at that point, you're reading 10,000, 25,000 words a minute. If you daze out, zone out for a minute or so, you just missed 25 pages. You know, and that's how much information he's taking in at a certain time. But that's the thing, is people can take that in. You know, it's absolutely possible because, one, he can do it, and two, the brain can definitely handle it. It's just, you know, why don't we? And I think it's because we've just been brought up in a society that's, you know, traditional. You know, we teach reading and it works, obviously, because people do read. But I think we're in a day and age where we have so much information that we need to get through that now we need to step it up. You know, I mean, you look at medieval times and people, you know, they could read 125 words a minute, and at that, I mean, they were above and beyond the call of duty. But they could definitely stay up with the times and be actually ahead of the times, you know. But nowadays, I mean, you need, you know, gosh, I mean, so much information comes out every day that, I mean, you can spend the whole day reading just to keep track of everything, you know. And at 125 to 250 words a minute, you're just not going to be able to keep up. So I think it just gives you, you know, last thing, it just gives you the ability to stay current and to be able to catch up, stay ahead. And I think ultimately, you know, more than anything, you're going to see a need for it grow, and you're going to see more people, you know, I mean, it'll eventually just become a part of the school system. And, you know, we won't need videos like this anymore because people will realize that we need to start teaching our kids this way because they need to stay, you know, up to speed.
Sounds good. Well, thank you again, Kris, for joining us here. Hope you guys found that useful. And of course, you can always find more of our videos again at YouTube/user/mathcrazytutoring. All right, thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon.